Hello and good day to all friends. This is Mojtaba Rasti speaking. I'm from the Thales team, and today is October 28th, 2025. I'm here with you. Today I'll be analyzing Bitcoin using the Thales Market Screener tool. Please note that these analyses are for educational and informational purposes only. If you use this information to take positions in the market, the responsibility for any profit or loss will be entirely your own. Well, as you know, in line with this, directional movement MBAT. This arrow that we drew in previous days, the price corrected itself down to around 113,000. Now, it didn't come exactly down to 113, it dropped to about 113,500, and now, just as we discussed before, there's another attempt underway to reach around 116,500, and it's likely that we'll break through this level, because this 116 level, it was broken once with the shadow of this candle, then there was a pullback and some reaccumulation, and now another attempt is likely to break it again. So for now, our analysis and scenario are still following the same arrow we drew. It's moving in that direction. We're still on track, so let's move on to the market screener and see what we've got today, from the start of today up until now, for the expiration date. Tomorrow, October 29th, the raw database shows 4,421 Bitcoins in the form of 1,455 option contracts have been traded, and this is the result of that curve. A curve where the downside dominates? Look, if we zoom in, we can't really see it like this. It's a curve that sees anything below 112,700 as profitable, okay? And let's turn on the delta. Right now, our movement is upward. What's happening is that the current trend is upward. And you can see, as the price increases, the delta here is decreasing, meaning that with A. Basically, we hit a ceiling up to 118. Up to 118, calls have been sold. So, this move is expected to hit a ceiling somewhere around 117 to 118 in these areas. What's the result? Does it mean this upward trend will continue? If we accept this scenario, it would look something like this. See, that's where the ceiling would be. 118 becomes the ceiling of this trend, meaning it actually forms a trend with a ceiling, and then it could move back down again. But if 118 is strongly broken to the upside, you'll see that we have call buying happening. With the price increase, delta will rise again up to 122.3. So here, a series of call buys get triggered. So this curve might be hinting at a possible downward shape, or maybe it could be postponed to the time when a ceiling was formed here, which, yes, will probably move down again, because right now our trend is still upward, and we're seeing that. We're heading toward forming a ceiling here, where the calls that were sold will realize a ceiling, which could be at 119 or 118. If we move the curve, the slide, forward, you'll see, yes, the conditions can get even more bearish. So, as you can see, these recent trades, from this point upward, as we said, are valid up to 118. That means the upward movement we're seeing here, based on technical analysis, could come to an end here. At 118, we might see another pause, and within the same trend we're following, we could see a reversal here. We could form a bottom below and then move upward again. We can interpret it this way. And yes, you can see, has this correction been predicted here? Let's move on. The process database shows movement in both directions, but both sides have been considered upward. You can see that the upward side is stronger. Look at the delta. See how strong the delta movement is and how much the delta penetrates the profit area. Look at the delta movement in the lower area, in the loss area. The depth of penetration is greater here, so our buying activity is higher here. Let's move the slider forward. See how it becomes volatile here? We're moving toward the top of this fluctuation, where 118 is the top of this fluctuation, 117 to 118. Let's go a bit further. Here it starts to show its bullish side. These are the trades from the last hour, fully processed in the database. Here you can see the upward movement. It has started and can go up to 118. As you can see, its ceiling is 118.300. It can continue up to about 118.300. Let's move on to drawing the indicator and the zones. As you can see, the intersection of the buyer and seller curves is on the upper side. There's an agreement around 116, and let me say, an agreement around 116.800 and about 117. On the downside, the agreement is around 112.200, and in the profit zone, the lower zone is also an agreement zone. Look, the sellers didn't want anything below about 112, while the buyers are interested in anything below 112.430. So here is a place where the price is likely to appear, but this area is not actually an agreement zone. There are differences in approach, so let's enter the points into the indicator and continue. Well, as you can see, the upper band has lost a lot of its bullish momentum, while the lower band still has bullish momentum. But that has also decreased. The bottom has risen a bit, and the top is almost the same as yesterday's top, so keep this point in mind, friends. This bullish move broke the previous high, meaning it hit 116,400 here. It's important. If it gets stuck here, naturally it could form a double top and then come down. So, for example, the double top would be completed here, and then it could drop by the height of this formation. It could come down and test the 112,000 bottom. So keep this in mind, this move, that condition we mentioned for it to reach 117,000, depends on whether it can successfully break through 116,400 here and not form a double top. Because right here, our top has stayed the same, meaning there seems to be a resistance, a barrier, preventing a new high from forming. Here, the RSI has dropped below the moving average, so this could get rejected and the move downward might continue. So let's keep these points in mind as well. Let's move on to the zone updates. Alright, you can see the zones here. The upper zone is wider. But actually, it's not a consensus area. The lower zone is narrower. But as we saw, the consensus point is in the profit area, and the lower zone is also a consensus area. This is also the area of our maximum profit and loss, the zone of maximum profit and loss for buyers and sellers, where the price started to shoot up from right here. You can also see the upper zone. It lines up perfectly with this shadow. Look, it's right on this shadow, up to 117,500. That is, from 116,400 to 117,500. If it can break through 116,400 with strength, it can reach 117,500 and form a higher ceiling, and this upward trend will remain valid. In that case, if it stays at the bottom of this upper zone, well, it will probably form a double top and likely get rejected. To the downside, we would head toward the lower zone, around 112,000. But again, nothing significant really happens there. We see a normal bottom here, and after this bottom, it could again, actually within the framework of this trend, it could come down further and break these lower bottoms as well. At that point, the story changes. Alright, so that's it for zone updates. Let's move on. Let's take a look at delta and gamma, and here's gamma as well. Yes. Look, we have several, one gamma, a short gamma, a negative gamma for the ticker. Let me say 116 and 400, 116 and 400 would be the long gamma for the ticker, and for the maker, it's 114. Let me 114. Sorry, why did I say that? 114, 116, and 400. Look, right here, it's really interesting. Oh, does this become the same top? Does this become the same top? Look, the top that we registered. This is a resistance level for us. It's right in front of the resistance, and most likely the seller here is the call ticker, and here the maker is the call buyer. So here it'll act as a resistance. The probable market maker will start selling, meaning they'll reduce volatility. Above the largest gamma we have, there's a long gamma for the ticker. The ticker has bought calls for 120 and 600. So we have a short gamma for the maker at 120 and 600. Here, this is where you see it was an important level. This is where our sharp drop started. Here, there's a short gamma for the maker, and then here we have a small gamma, and an even smaller gamma at 107, 107. Right now, the lower target is naturally here at 113, 113, which acted as support once. It's supported here. It's pretty important, but it's a weak gamma. You see, at 113 we'll have a short gamma for the maker here. And we'll have another short gamma for the maker at 107, which, well, is still quite low for now. Here, almost at this bottom, we'll also have a short gamma at this low point. For now, we'll just stick to these two, because that's our current outlook for now. We need to see if it can break through this gamma or not. Will it break and pass through or not? Well, these are also some of the key points if we move forward. On the process chart here, the situation is a bit clearer. There's a very strong gamma to the upside. Again, we have it at 120. The call ticker has been bought, but with a smaller amount. The put ticker hasn't been bought for 107, so the amount of calls bought is higher, and now, especially if we look at the raw database, it's possible that part of this lower gamma is actually the result of hedging. After all, these are contracts that have been bought for insurance purposes. Alright. I'll make this smaller and put this box here. Here. Some friends talk about how the numbers are small and insignificant. I tend to forget to zoom in sometimes. Let's move on to. Let's look at the other maturities. If I activate the third maturity, see? The third maturity, see? Again, for the third maturity, do you see a contract that was executed today? You can see that the ceiling I saw for Thursday, where's the ceiling? 119? It's really interesting. This gives us a bullish outlook. It means it's saying that by Thursday, it's expecting the price to reach that level. It's expecting 118 to 119, 118 to 119. Toward the end, there's a bit of a bearish outlook, but only below 106. So, we can still say that we're expecting a ceiling of 118 to 119. The market and. Let's move on to October 31st, which is for today's trades for October 31st. 5,000 Bitcoin, and it's still extremely bullish. Look, the rally has started too, and the end of this rally could also be 119. So, it seems that 119, you see, that's the peak, and after that, calls have been sold, you can see. After that, with the price increase from 192 onward, we have an increase in delta. Selling calls means the ceiling has been set, so up to 124 has been strongly tested, meaning the price could even break through 119 and stop somewhere between 119 and 124 as a price resistance. So, in a really hyped up scenario, we could even break through 119 by Friday and move up more strongly, but it seems like around 118,000 and 119,000 are the numbers we can expect by Thursday or Friday. We should expect that the price will have reached its limit around here by then. Alright, so that was a look at The coming days. Let's go back to the 29th expiry. Detailed trades. Out of 4,438 Bitcoin, 2,443 Bitcoin were bought. Out of those, 1,092 were call options and 1,350 were put options. There were more put options bought, more puts than calls. What's their target? Is the target for the call buyers above 116,200? Yeah, it's above 116,200. We're talking about 116,400. This is the critical point, this shadow. They want profits above 116,400, and right now we're moving toward it, so there's still room for it to go higher. The decisive point is exactly 116,400. Let's see if it can break through it or not. So for now, this outlook is still favoring the calls. If we look at it in terms of hours, the contracts were entered about 18 hours ago, 18 hours back. Basically, 3 hours have passed since this candle. With this candle, it's 7 hours, 11 hours, 15 hours, and 18 hours. Sorry, I mean 19 hours. So, in the middle of this candle? So we can pretty much say the contracts were entered around the middle of this red candle or on this doji. So the bullish outlook right now is that these calls are showing this upward move. It's the buying of calls, which is less here, about 1,000 Bitcoins, but the buying of puts is 1,300. So these haven't materialized yet. Where do the put buyers want it to go? Below 113, below 113. So we could go back to 113 again. Although, on this same downward leg, we've already come down to about 113, to around 113,400 or 113,500. Maybe you could even consider this as partially fulfilling the puts. But since most of our contract entries happened while this upward move was taking place, we can say that most of it has been realized. So these calls wanted above 116,400. We have to see how much it can push itself above 116,400. After that, we can actually wait for these put purchases and see what perspective the sellers have. There are 1,994 Bitcoin sold, of which 1,012 are call sales and 982 are put sales. Well, the picture gets a little clearer. Of course, here the call and put sales are very close to each other, but the call sales are still higher. Where do they see the ceiling? 116. So, it seems that the call sellers don't really expect it to break through this level. They see a stop right here at this point, and on the other hand, the put sellers see the bottom at 112,600, which is quite low. So, it hasn't happened yet. These areas are the lower zones, and they're actually expecting a possible return to these lows. So, this outlook is starting to lean a bit toward a correction. That is, what I mean is, it actually seems like the evidence is showing this. We probably won't be able to break through this level. Maybe, well, let's move on to the processed database. Let me fix these things. Let's check the processed contracts. 3,171 Bitcoin in open. Apparently, we don't have any negative interest, or if we do, it's very little. So little that we don't need to account for it. Alright. For 10 Bitcoins and above, there are 87 contracts. For 20 Bitcoins, 49 contracts. For 25 Bitcoins, 23 contracts. We can review these. For 25 Bitcoins and above, the first thing that stands out are these two 500 Bitcoin contracts. We need to see what strategy this is. They were also entered today. It's already 11 in the morning. This one isn't coming. Well, long stir angle guard, meaning we've now reached a level where this trader can't. In fact, they've taken a neutral strategy, waiting to see from which side we exit. They've set 119,500 and above on the upside and 107,900 on the downside, meaning they've actually covered a large range? Well, we have this too. The 50 Bitcoin strategy play. This one is actually, you could say, a short strangle, a short. The strangle, where the maximum profit is in the fluctuation between 113,000 and 115,000. The ceiling is 115,800 and the floor is 112,300. So, this also suggests that we might not be able to break through here. Alright, this is another one we've analyzed. This is the 500 Bitcoin one. We have this one too. Take a look at this one as well. Another short strangle from 112,000 to 116,800. Right now, we're moving toward the ceiling of this short strangle. So, 116,800 to 117,000 could be reached. Meaning, we might enter this zone. We could go deep into this zone and then pull back. Alright. And these two, this one is the same, again showing a volatile situation for tomorrow. And these two are also a long straddle. It's a long straddle that profits if it breaks out above 116,800 or below 113,500. Basically, it sees profit in that scenario. Overall, it seems the evidence suggests we'll have a pause here. Now, either our pause will be here and form a double top, which would make a difference. The situation that might happen is either we go higher, and maybe later when we come down, if we break the lower support. Basically, a situation similar to a liquidity sweep might occur, a liquidity sweep pattern or a Q pattern. Alright. Let's move on to the liquidity levels. You can see the 24-hour chart. We have liquidity accumulation on both sides of the price, and on the upper side, as you can see, it's much closer to the price. So, most likely, the liquidity is on the upper side. The main price target is up to 116,700, up to 116,700. And let's look at the 48-hour chart. Alright, let's check out the 48-hour chart. The 48-hour chart is pretty much the same. Right now, the price target is the upper liquidity. We're seeing liquidity accumulation focused around 116,400 to 117,000 on the upside, and on the downside, around 112,700 to 113,000. So, it seems like we might be able to. Maybe something like this could happen, and if we're lucky, we might stop here, which would form a double top, and then head downwards, in which case this drop could actually lead to an even further decline, down to around 111, 110,500, or 111, forming a double top pattern here. Next, I think maybe we could, since we actually hit this high on this candle. For this candle, it could make a higher high, for example up to 100 and, let's say, up to 117,500. Then it could create the next move downward, and we come down. Down to this low, to 112,500. What gets formed? A QM structure at the end of this trend. A QM structure forms here, which could indicate. In fact, this could mean a change in the short-term uptrend, shifting a bit lower. Here again, we might see the price fluctuate a bit. The price could play around and then... So, does that mean we come back up from here and break this high again? Now we have to see which scenario plays out. You need to monitor the price. If it breaks this high, naturally, we'll be positioned higher. This uptrend will continue, and we'll see a pullback. will actually form another higher low, and naturally the trend will keep moving upward. But what we're seeing for the end of the week, for Friday, is bullish. I think ultimately the stopping point could be around this level. 117 and 15. I'm insisting a bit on this level, though it's possible that if it turns out to be a mistake, we'll stop here as well. But I think the price will stall around 117.15 to 118, and then we could see a move down toward 113 or even 112. We'll probably see some movement, because overall, the analyses we've done show that around 117. Apparently for the price, it looks like that's the ceiling for tomorrow. Thanks for your attention. I hope this has been helpful, and until next time,